everybody. This is the Multifamily Movers podcast at South Coast Commercial. Today I'm here with the broker, the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Nelson, the owner of the company.
Hey,
welcome,
Alexio.
Brian.
Thank you.
So this is a new podcast we're starting at South Coast, and the goal here is to bring insider knowledge into the San Diego marketplace of apartments and sales and management, and valuable information for apartment owners on how to maximize the returns on the properties that they own or are looking to own. So with that, Brian, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and how long you've been in the business, how you got into the business?
Well, that's pretty easy. I could figure that part out. No, I appreciate you setting this up. So I started in multifamily right out of college. So we started at a competing company in 2003, and I've been doing sales ever since. So my last job was parking cars for Ace Parking. So in 2008, we decided to open up South Coast Commercial as as top producers of our previous company. Mm-hmm. Kevin Hemstreet and I had a small office down in Pacific Beach, close to where we all lived. And within 9 months, we decided to move over into Point Loma and take on a larger office space when we had the opportunity to grow with other agents. Another 5 agents decided to come over to our company in the first year. That was the start of it. The idea is that in 2008, 2009, market conditions were quite a bit different. Mm. And we knew that we wanted to manage assets and get some fee-based income rather than just commissions. We could not do that at our previous employer, so we decided to go out on our own, primarily to manage properties and do sales along the way. And it just kind of steamrolled out from there. Fast forward to 2023, we have a pretty dominant share of multifamily sales. We manage close to 1,400 apartments throughout San Diego. And there's 20 agents at South Coast Commercial, brokers and or agents, mm-hmm. like yourself, mm-hmm. and then Kevin and I. So,
well, I can attest you guys do a great job managing a company. As you can see here, we're in our upgraded, renovated office. You guys have invested a lot of money over the last year into marketing and mm-hmm. and things that are going to help us as agents and property owners that we represent, both on the management and the sale and purchase side. So. That goes a long way. I'm sure, it sounds, starting from a car lot to now owning a brokerage with 20 agents over, a 10 to 15 year period is a pretty big achievement, I would say, especially given that we have, like you said, a dominant share of the sales in San Diego. I think we average around 20 to 25% on a yearly basis, and we're hoping to continue growing that number.
Absolutely. I would say we're averaging about 15%, maybe 20%, depending upon what statistics you look at. But I do know we average about 150 to 160 transactions per year, mm-hmm. Everywhere from 2 to 4 unit properties, upwards of 100 units.
Right.
So we do sell some smaller assets in San Diego as well. 150. This past year, we did about 132 transactions, and the year before that, in 2021, was one of our best years with 171 transactions.
Right. I mean, that's a big number, and I think I'd like to say I contributed a bit to those numbers as well.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And this podcast and everything else that we've been working on. So,
right. Well,
good positive growth with the company for sure.
Yeah. Well, the last couple of years specifically, there have been a lot of changes. I mean, I think that mm-hmm. when I started in 2015, I remember the run-up, up until 2020, was everything kind of just seemed peachy. Then 2020 with COVID hit, and we were thrown a big curveball. And on the management side, you guys dealt with a lot of changes. 1,400 doors, mm-hmm. COVID regulations, meaning we can't operate the same way with tenants, and mm-hmm. You navigating that on behalf of landlords, having their back, not shutting your doors. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you had during COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, COVID. Boy, we've been talking about COVID a lot. So one of the main challenges, obviously, is pertaining to the different tenant protection laws and acts that have been implemented throughout COVID on a state level as well as on a local level, in conjunction with rent control and other acts that have come out. Pertaining to the eviction moratorium, accessing units, doing repairs on units, the liabilities and such have been very difficult for us. Typically, we average maybe 2 evictions a year before COVID, and now we're up to probably 10 or 12 evictions going at a given time.
Right.
Our evictions are taking. Well, now we can evict people. Not that we ever want to, but we do work for our clients. Our clients are the property owner. Our customers are our tenants. Mm-hmm. Our customers do need to pay rent, and if they don't, we do need to vacate that unit so that we can re-rent that unit to somebody who desires to live in the unit and pay their rent on time. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're taking about 9 to 12 months to evict a family if we have to. So we're doing everything we can within our power to avoid evictions. That's what we're doing. We have payment plans that we've had to go through. We've done cash for keys scenarios that we've had to go through. But our goal is to keep tenants in their homes, work with them. We've been working huge with the COVID relief programs that we've been getting from the government assistance, mm-hmm. which has added an entire new variable for the South Coast Commercial accounting staff and team. I've had to hire additional people too in receivables simply to deal with the government assistance programs and the COVID relief payments that we've had to mm-hmm. collect in order to keep our tenants and work within the playbook. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers any questions.
No, I mean it does, and I mean as an owner manager of a personal portfolio of apartments, I can tell you we had a couple tenants that applied for the COVID relief, and once they do that, especially during the COVID times, there was no evicting. Once they're in the process, mm-hmm. it's you're kind of on a different timeline, and you have to work with the government system. It was one of those kind of emergency laws that they put into place to keep people from ending up on the streets. But I can tell you from experience, we were working with this government regulation that was promising us a paycheck. They said, we ran out of funding about 6 months after promising us a paycheck from accruing late rent from this tenant. At this point, he was maybe 6 months behind, and we still hadn't received any of that rent. And obviously, we're still paying the property taxes and the insurance. And so as a landlord, I know how long and tiresome that was for just one tenant. So for a portfolio of 1,400 units, dealing with 20 of those, it's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. And again, all we want to do is keep tenants in our building paying their rent on time. We are a fee-based management company. Mm-hmm. When tenants pay rent, we collect a management fee as our salary and our pay. So when tenants aren't paying rent, it doesn't benefit anybody involved.
Right. Well, that's it. We've come a long way now. We're kind of emerging out of COVID. What are some new, at this point in time, are you seeing the landscape for landlords get easier, the tenant rights going back into the landlord's favor, or is it still, have they removed any of the COVID, protections for tenants? Where are we at right now?
Well, absolutely. There's a lot going on. One, first and foremost, our rents have still been going through the roof. Okay, rents are increasing 14% last year, if I read a CoStar article recently. We've softened now, but coming out of COVID, based on a number of variables, one of which the lack of supply of inventory. If tenants are in housing and are not moving in and out as they normally would, creating a normal vacancy factor in San Diego of 2 or 3%, or depending upon where you're looking at it. We've decreased our vacancy factor by keeping tenants in their units, so now we have a lack of supply, enhancing rents going up in an already climbing rental market anyway, just being San Diego, California.
Right.
So we have been raising rents to the maximum that we could allow on units that allow it. Of course, trying to catch up to a market rent in that area for each unit, taking specifically each building, the location, and the condition of the occupied unit. We've seen a softening in rents today. I would think that we're kind of balancing out depending upon the asset. But if a unit has been rehabbed in the last 12 months and it is at a market rent in the last 12 months, I would say for the next 12 months we're pretty much plateaued. But we've had huge rent growth. Multifamily owners, our clients, are very happy with our performance, as well as the performance of, I'm sure your clients are very happy with the rents at where they're at today.
Right. I mean, you buy a property 2 years ago based off of 2 years ago pro forma. That pro forma's gone up 20%, so you can assume that the property value has gone up proportionally. And a lot of the people who bought may be thinking we're just barely going to break even, or doing just they're doing great right now.
Right. So the occupied units are doing great. The physical vacancy is next to zero. Our economic vacancy, and again, our economic vacancy is occupied units that aren't paying rent, delinquent tenants. I would say it's about 1.5% for our company. As far as the physical vacancy, barely 1%. So when you combine it, we're still in that 2 to 3% vacancy factor.
Right.
And rents are continuously going up 14, 20% last couple of years. Our clients are happy. I think that we're doing a good job for our clients.
Right. I mean, it's a thankless job. I think management. You get to hear the brunt of the work of the complaints of the tenants, and you get to hear the complaints of the landlords who don't see all the behind the scenes work that you're doing in the background. But
it's a necessary evil. We have to manage property. We enjoy what we do, management and sales. Obviously, we enjoy sales. We enjoy management. We do our own construction on our assets. We keep as much as we can in-house for a number of reasons. But we are in the vice. The management company is the vice between the tenants and the landlords. But we just operate fair and honest with integrity, and do everything we can to make everybody happy as much as we can.
Awesome. Well, I think my next question was going to be, what sets us apart as a brokerage? And it sounds like you kind of led into that a little bit with those, 3 aspects. Can you just maybe brief over that?
Well, first and foremost, I like to think we have a leadership approach that is not just a good old boy network, as far as we roll up the sleeves, blue collar brokers that work hard for our clients. We team up with other companies. We cooperate as much as we can in the field. As you know, being a broker, you may be able to answer these questions better than I can. But what I do like about South Coast Commercial is that we work hard, we play hard. We all have we have an interest in mind of like-minded young men and women who enjoy selling assets. We keep busy. We cold call, we warm call, we laugh together, we play together. And we have a good network of brokers at the company that get along. We don't have to lock our file cabinet doors, or our office doors, or our file cabinet drawers. We have a level of trust within each other that if we were to team up we would rather team up on a transaction than compete for that transaction or that sale. I think you could.
Well, I think that's definitely something I've noticed as a broker at this company, is that there's, and then talking to people at other companies many of which have now become agents at South Coast, and learning about their experiences at previous firms. I think that there's a much more collaborative approach here. We work together. I remember as I was starting as a junior agent, every single senior with experience had their door open to me to ask questions and provide that insider knowledge that you really need to grow, and is what the competitive edge we have against other brokerages, being so in tune with what's happening here, what the laws are on the management side. On the weekly meetings, going over current events and how they affect us directly, property owners in San Diego. That's super unique knowledge that we're able to share on the phones and obviously provide value to owners, and encourages them to work with us.
So, absolutely, and I think that it does encourage them to work with us, because I think clients can feel the agents getting along when they know that they're deciding to list their property with a firm where agents are cooperating together, rather than being a little more cutthroat. Right. It creates a more positive environment for everybody.
Right. Well, I'll put it to you this way. In our business, it's very easy for someone, you to share a deal and then that person to go around you and work directly with that owner. Mm-hmm. But here at South Coast, I'm never worried about that because we have a certain level of trust with the people who work here. We get along. We hang out outside of work. And so we have this, a little bit different level of trust. So, I mean, we're often sharing deals. A lot of the deals that happen in the apartment space happen off market for a variety of reasons, but one of the main ones is that owners don't want their tenants to be bothered with people driving by excessively because it's listed on the market as for sale. So they prefer it to be kind of a more low-key transaction so that they can, protect the tenant privacy and not have to worry about a lot of people people bothering their tenants essentially. So because of that, we do need to share deals off market, and there's not necessarily that level of security that you get with a listing, but we have that security here because we have a certain level of trust with the brokers that we're working with.
And we also have all skill levels here at South Coast Commercial. Mm-hmm. We have senior VPs like yourself. And I have a gentleman who just started last week making his first cold calls on the other side of the hall right now.
That's right.
In an open space cubicle, and we're all able to laugh and have fun together.
Right.
So we have different experience levels of sales professionals here at the company. And as far as our off-market transactions, it's hard to deny with as many transactions we do each year over year for the past decade plus. We have a pretty good pulse of the market. We know who's buying, we know who's selling, and we know some of the most qualified investors out there for that particular asset. So although we do about, I'd say 40% of our transactions off market, the reality is that if we're able to deliver a buyer and seller together at a market price and terms that benefit both parties, it does make sometimes a more seamless transaction for not just the buyer and seller, but the tenants as well as the brokers.
Well, that was perfectly put, Brian.
As well as with 20 plus agents, we're not necessarily double ending, quote unquote, all of our transactions, but we're able to, Alexio, you may do a deal with, Adam Jacks or one of the other agents in the office, yeah. Which is part of the benefits of working at South Coast. With 20 guys and gals on the phones, we're always hustling and talking to buyers and sellers and making deals take place.
Right. Well, I think what I was kind of going with that question about some of the value that South Coast provides. You mentioned we have the 3 branches at South Coast. We have the brokerage, the management, and then the construction side. Absolutely. So how do those work together to provide value to our clients?
Oh, absolutely. Great question. Well, first and foremost, everything we manage has been an asset that we've either sold or we're planning on selling. So our construction is servicing our property management needs of all of our tenants, and we do basic, turns and apartment turns in that, the small price point, the carpet and paint as we call it. I don't do carpet, but we still call it carpet and paint. Right. And then we're able to do the renovations and show our clients in-house, if you were to buy this asset and put it under South Coast Commercial Management and you spent X amount of money doing the repairs, we could show you how we can get an increased rent or a market rent. And then they could determine if that the improvement cost would be beneficial for the money that they're spending.
Right.
If they could get $2,500 in rent when the unit's renting for $1,600, and what's the return on that improvement? So we're able to do what we say we're going to do by showing them that people who are actually going to be doing the construction walking the units. We go over the management, and then we could go into the sale. So when we sell an asset, or a broker makes a commission, we're not running off to Vegas and spending that big check and putting it on red. We're here to say, listen, we're going to put it under management. We're going to sell the asset, whether you're buying it or selling it. We'll put it under management. We'll show you the construction. We have an open book, a proven track record of other property owners that we've worked for. This is what it costs to fix up the unit. This is what our management fees are. This is how we're going to do what we say we're going to do. So I say that's one of the large benefits is by having it on an in-house infrastructure, we're able to show the client exactly what they're buying and stick by the client. And a lot of our clients are mom and pop investors. There's a lot of wheeler dealers in San Diego, right. But South Coast Commercial, we manage 2 units upwards of 50 units. So a lot of those clients, I have the plumber who owns 10 units. Everybody, contractors, plumbers, teachers, school teachers. One of my favorite clients is a retired school teacher who inherited a property in North Park here, and her rental income is more than her pension.
Well, that's the beauty of real estate, and something I can't preach enough on the phones to my friends, my family, and the people who are in it know.
Absolutely.
Example case right there. Someone who would otherwise be relying on her pension to retire and make ends meet is now essentially doubled, if not more, her retirement salary because she got involved in real estate and because we helped her along the way with the day-to-day issues that she ran into with tenants, toilets, trash, carpet, paint, as you said. She's a teacher. She's not necessarily experienced with these things, but is able to trust in our expertise to kind of handhold and protect that asset and ensure her retirement. So, great answers to great questions. I wanted to ask you right now, what is the, as a manager, what is the current rule for increasing rents in San Diego, California? Do we have rent control?
Yeah, absolutely. No more than 10%. That's what we're sticking to.
Okay.
So we are rent capped at 10%, which we don't see being an issue moving forward. We've had a hard time catching up some of our buildings just with COVID. We usually raise rents and do an analysis on each property, put together an appropriate rent increase on an annual basis or a recommendation for our clients. Our job is to be an advisor to our clients. Some clients say, I'm never going to raise my rent. I'll raise the rent when they move out. Other clients require our rents to be as close to market, maybe just a little under, recognizing the condition of the asset. So we always put together recommendations on what a market rent is and how we can get there. Since rent control took place, we are at a 10% rent cap. Okay, so we've been raising our rents at about 10% or less than, right. Depending upon when they moved in and what the tenant could afford. We want to raise the rent to be close to market because we do work for our client, but we never want to force a vacancy by a rent increase. Vacancies are expensive, especially for our mom and pop clients. We have, downtime, rehab cost. It's very expensive to have vacancy.
And mortgage payments, property taxes that they're coming out of pocket for if the rent's not coming in that month.
Yeah. And our job as managers is consistent cash flow. I want to make it so our clients have a consistent income stream that they can rely on each month from their asset.
Okay. And what is the actual rule for rent control? Is it just 10% or is there a way that you calculate that?
First of all, it's no more than 10% per year. That would be your basic rent control rule.
But is it 5% plus CPI, or is it actually 10%?
Thank you. 5% for the city plus CPI. The CPI has been over 5% for the past year or so, so we've been going up to 10%.
And what is CPI? That's
Consumer Price Index. So right now, I would have to look at what the current CPI is, but averaging between like 7 and 8% for last.
Right. And I think that's like a reflection of inflation. So the idea is that you're able to keep up, if inflation's only at 1%, you're looking at 5% plus 1%. that takes you to 6%. But we, like Brian has said, over the last year and a half, we've been above 5. We're looking at 7-8% right now, so that puts us at the cap of 10.
Yeah, with rent growth over 14% last year, we've been trying to do everything we can to stay close to a market rent.
Right.
You know, it's our job to work for our clients. So.
Right. Well, I think this was a great, valuable, session here. I think we provided a lot of value for some owners on what we do at South Coast, and I'm sure we're going to continue, between ourselves providing value based off of new market news, as well as bringing in, experienced guests that are high up in San Diego, making lawmakers, other property managers, other investors, to share their experiences and insight, to hopefully provide value for owners like the listeners of our podcast. So with that, thanks, Brian. Looking forward to doing many more of these with you. And this was a good first episode of the Multifamily
we put
Movers.
something together here, huh?
We sure did.
All right.
You got to start somewhere.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Brian.